Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I thought I would chat with you guys a little bit about high protein diets, very high protein diets, athletes, and kidney function. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skilled up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. Alright guys, I was reading through a couple of different reviews recently that were done this year, some meta-analysis, and I'll link them down in the video comments down below somewhere. But stuff that we need to talk about, because this is one of the things that I used to mention when I really kind of harped on the supplement industry itself for really pushing the high protein diets, was that this is stuff that we need to look at, we need to be concerned about. And, we have more data on it now. And so that's kind of the point that we come around to of me saying, hey, I'm really fine with really high protein diets. It's what I've started doing myself, and it has helped tremendously with weight loss, fat loss, all of that. As someone who has an insane appetite. Like, I don't suffer from slow metabolism, guys. I gain body fat easy because I love to eat. I'm a big eater. Even though I train, I love to eat. But the thing is, really high protein diets are fantastic for people like that, people who have voracious appetites, who will eat an enormous number of calories. High protein diets are fantastic for mitigating fat gain. They're fantastic for helping with fat loss and body composition changes. They just are. And the data is overwhelming on that. But the concern there has been really one of things like health issues, kidney issues, everything else. Now, we know that vegans and other silly people have tried to promote the insane idea that all these animal proteins cause cancer and stuff. I'm sorry, guys, the data doesn't show that. The very limited studies they had concluding that actually have been pretty well debunked in the literature at this point is showing that that's not really a factor. People aren't getting cancer from eating animal proteins. Now, could excessive calorie and fat intake contribute to it? Yeah, absolutely, but that's not the same as protein, right? That is not the same as protein. Telling people, well, if you eat 2 pounds of bacon every day and drink a gallon of whole milk together, it could contribute to cancer is not the same as eating a bunch of chicken breast and broccoli, all right? They're not the same effect there. It's not the protein that's the issue. It's the excessive caloric intake with the excessive fat intake in combination. That can be a problem, and particularly for sedentary people with all these other lifestyle factors. So it really is nonsense at this point, and it really isn't. People still promoting that. These silly-ass vegans need to recognize that. Now, I recognize that they have their own ethical views, and that's different. That's totally different. But back to this point about protein and kidney function. This is something that has been of great concern, and it's something that I said before, that, look, training itself, actual hard training, can put a little bit of a strain on your kidneys in and of itself. So that's something that we do need to think about when we do have people promoting these ultra high protein intakes. And I've said before, I was concerned about that. But until we have more data, more studies, that this is stuff that we needed to be concerned about, that we needed to look at, we did need to think about. Because there have been these historical concerns that people who have certain types of kidney damage have been advised by experts to go on lower protein diets, right? That's been a standard protocol. For a long time. And that was always a concern for me, and it was a concern for a lot of people. It was even a concern for medical doctors, right? And that's what I'd always tell people. We have all these meatheads in the bodybuilding world are saying one thing, and then you have medical doctors saying another, and like, well, you should just ignore those medical doctors. They don't know crap about training. Well, that doesn't mean that you do. Just because you're a meathead who goes to the gym 5 days a week and blasts 2 grams of steroids every week doesn't mean that you know anything about health in the human body either. I'm going to say the medical doctor is a little more qualified. But the point we get to is that this was a point of contention. It was a point of concern. And it was a point of concern for me. But as I've looked at it more and more, I've come around to the fact that this emerging amounts of data is looking at this, and the data is showing that people who don't have kidney issues, people who have healthy kidneys, not just regular laymen, but even athletes on very high protein diets, right? We're talking about athletes on very high protein diets, 200 plus grams oftentimes, who are very hard training, and many of them harder training than most of us are. Most of us here, we're lifting 3 or 4 days a week, and a lot of you guys, well, I'm lifting 5 days a week for 4 hours. No, you're not training hard. I can assure you, if you're not blasting a gram of test a week and you're in the gym for 2 hours 5 days a week, you're not training hard. You're playing around, and your cable drop sets and forced reps from cable curls. You're not training hard. You're not putting a strain on your body, trust me. You're doing a bunch of fluff and pump, and I'm sorry, that just doesn't cause the same concerns that we have. But we look at athletes who are on very high protein diets, and a lot of these meta-analysis and stuff have looked at that also, and what they're finding is that their kidney function is normal. Most of the values and everything associated with it are in the normal range, and their kidneys are healthy. They don't seem to be at risk of damage. And so we've got a lot of newer data, and again, reviews and meta-analysis looking at this stuff, trying to determine this, because this was a cause for concern, and it is something we need to look at and we need to continue to look at. But the reality is, at this point, a lot of these concerns for people who have healthy kidneys, right? Now, if you have kidney damage, or you're missing a kidney, or you're on dialysis, or you have diabetes or anything else, we're not talking about you. You need to be consulting a specialist. You probably need to have a registered dietitian working with you through your medical doctor to give you the best advice. And at a certain point, you trying to maintain this perfect body composition or training goals when you have this other health issue, it should be of secondary concern anyways, right? I mean, your health, and if you have a kidney issue or diabetes or anything else going on, the least of your concerns right now is, can you maintain a 10% body fat while holding on to whatever amount of muscle mass, right? That's not your concerns at this point. Your concerns are, can I not have to have my kidney removed? Am I going to need a kidney transplant? Am I going to live? Those are your concerns, not this other stuff. And I'm not saying you shouldn't train or be concerned about the other stuff, but it's a secondary concern. But for people with healthy kidneys, this doesn't seem to be that big of an issue. There isn't really evidence that it's an issue, and the evidence is showing quite the opposite. And, the way that we have to look at this, does that mean that we should completely ignore it and just assume it's completely safe to eat 400 grams of protein every day while training really, really, really hard? No, we shouldn't assume that it's completely safe. We shouldn't. There probably is a degree of risk, because these things do put some strain on the kidneys. And when people start throwing certain PEDs and diuretics and other stuff into the mix, that issue starts to go up dramatically. But if you're not doing the latter, there is less concern, but there should be some concern. And I guess the way that we could look at that realistically and say, okay, is there possible risk factors to health? Yes. But is it fulfilling your life and helping you reach other goals and be a better athlete and train harder and have body composition and other stuff? Well, yes. So that's what you have to balance out, is that potential small degree of risk that may be there, because it might be there. We don't really have evidence that it's there, but we could extrapolate that it might still be there. And that's reasonable. But we have to weigh that out versus all these other lifestyle choices. And I think we have to be realists about this stuff. Those of us who are seriously into training, we're seriously into fitness or athleticism or some sport, we have to weigh all of that stuff against our health. But at the end of the day, when you start comparing the lifestyles, let's really compare lifestyles of people. Look at how the average American lives in terms of their lifestyles versus someone who maybe trains hard and eats a bit too much protein. Again, until things like a lot of drugs come into the mix, realistically speaking, if someone is looking after their health, they don't smoke cigarettes, they don't abuse drugs, right? They don't live a lot of these lifestyle factors. They don't eat a terrible diet. They don't sit around eating tons of fried food and large amounts of refined sugars and all this other stuff. If we're healthy and you get plenty of fruits and vegetables, and you live a healthy lifestyle and you don't abuse your body with drugs, and you take care of yourself and you train and exercise, if realistically the worst thing that you're doing to your body is eating a really high protein diet and training, when we start factoring that against all these other risk factors that we have in society, it's pretty far down the list. I mean, realistically speaking, the odds that you're going to be unhealthy as a result of eating 300 grams of protein a day as someone who lifts, when you weigh that against the lifestyle factors that are really, really common, the stuff that's really killing people and really destroying health, I don't think we should be looking at these with the same degree of concern. So we also need to be realistic about this. And it doesn't mean that we should just say, well, there's no risk at all. Because that's the problem we run into, is the other end of people saying, well, it's fine. I mean, you eat 500 grams of protein a day, every day. There's never going to be any problems from that. Well, we shouldn't assume that. But we also shouldn't be placing something like that in the category of people who smoke cigarettes, people who abuse alcohol, people who are morbidly obese and who are sitting at 30% body fat and sedentary. I mean, realistically speaking, those things are bigger health concerns, and we do need to look at it from that perspective. And again, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if the most unhealthy thing, the biggest risk factor in your life is the fact that you eat a really high protein diet, but everything else is on point, we have to be honest with ourselves. The odds that you're going to have bad health as a result of that compared to, say, the general population, it's just not realistically there. And again, when we're looking at some of the data and reviews and everything that have been done at this point, that are looking at everyone from just people who train recreationally up to athletes who are on very high protein diets, and we're still seeing normal kidney function. We're not seeing much in the way of risk factors. I mean, I think it's fair to say that the risk could be there, but it's not of anywhere near the same degree of concern that, I don't know, smoking cigarettes or eating fried food every day has. You know, it's still potentially there, but we can't really compare these two. They're not even close to the same ballpark. And I think sometimes we worry about the wrong things sometimes. We really do, when we see how unhealthy so many other lifestyle factors are that are out there. That's just my 2 cents on it. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.